The sky turned dark at noon. Do-hyun stood at the window of the underground bunker and watched the massive shadows cover the sun. They were not clouds. They were ships. Hundreds of alien warships hung in the sky like giant metal monsters waiting to strike. The alarms had started 3 hours ago. Every television, every radio, every phone in the world showed the same message. Aliens had arrived. They called themselves the Vikran Empire. They wanted Earth to surrender. Do-hyun was a commander in the Global Defense Force. He was 42 years old with short, gray hair and calm eyes. While other officers ran around in panic, he stood still and watched the sky. His hands were steady. His heart was calm. "Commander!" A young officer named Ji-woo ran toward him. Her face was pale with fear. "The Vikran ships are everywhere. They have surrounded the entire planet. Our satellites show over 2,000 warships in orbit." Do-hyun nodded slowly. "I know. What do we do? Our weapons cannot fight against that many ships. The world leaders are demanding answers. Some countries want to surrender already." Do-hyun turned away from the window. He looked at Ji-woo with a small smile. "Tell them to wait. Tell them help is coming." Ji-woo stared at him like he was crazy. "Help? From where? We are alone in the universe. There is no one to help us." Do-hyun put his hand on her shoulder. "That is what everyone believes. But I need you to trust me. Go to the communication room. Send a message to Antarctica Base 7. Use the code word Shadow Rise. Do you understand?" Ji-woo did not understand, but she nodded and ran to follow his orders. Do-hyun walked through the bunker. Everywhere he looked, he saw fear. Soldiers talked in worried voices. Scientists stared at screens showing the alien fleet. Officers argued about what to do next. The world was falling apart, and they did not know that hope was closer than they thought. He entered the main command center. Giant screens covered the walls. They showed images from around the world. In New York, people ran through the streets in panic. In Tokyo, traffic was frozen as everyone looked up at the sky. In Paris, the military tried to keep order while citizens screamed and cried. General Park stood in the center of the room. He was an old man with white hair and tired eyes. He had led armies for 30 years, but he had never faced anything like this. "Commander Do-hyun," the general said, "what is your report?" "The Vikran have not attacked yet, sir. They are waiting." "Waiting for what?" "For us to surrender. They believe we have no choice." General Park shook his head. "Maybe we don't. Look at those ships. Each one is bigger than our largest aircraft carrier. Their weapons could destroy our cities in seconds. What can we do against such power?" Do-hyun stepped closer to the general. He spoke in a low voice so only the general could hear. "Sir, do you remember Project Shadow?" The general's eyes went wide. His face became pale. "That project was closed 50 years ago. It was just a theory. A dream. It was not a dream, sir. It was real. It is still real. I have spent my entire career protecting that secret. The time has come to use it." The general grabbed Do-hyun's arm. "Are you telling me the stories are true? The hidden fleet? The ancient technology?" "Every word, sir. Earth is not as helpless as the Vikran believe." Before the general could respond, the screens flickered. A new image appeared. It was an alien face. The Vikran commander had pale blue skin and 4 yellow eyes. His mouth was filled with sharp teeth. He wore golden armor decorated with symbols of conquest. "People of Earth," the alien spoke. His voice was cold and cruel. "I am High Commander Brock of the Vikran Empire. Your planet has been claimed. Your species will serve us. You have 1 hour to surrender your governments and your weapons. If you refuse, we will burn your cities to ash." We will take your children as slaves. We will erase your history from the universe. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning. The screen went black. The room exploded with noise. Officers shouted. Phones rang. People cried. The world had 1 hour to decide its fate. General Park looked at Do-hyun. His old hands were shaking. 1 hour. That's not enough time. It will have to be enough, Do-hyun said. I need to make a call. He walked to a small room at the back of the command center. It was empty except for an old telephone on a metal desk. This phone was not connected to any normal network. It used technology that most people did not know existed. Do-hyun picked up the phone. He dialed a number that only 12 people in the world knew. A woman's voice answered. Shadow Command. Identify yourself. Commander Do-hyun. Authorization code. Silent Thunder 97. Authorization confirmed. What are your orders, Commander? Wake them up. Wake them all up. The time has come. There was a pause. Then the woman spoke again. Her voice was filled with emotion. Understood, Commander. After all these years, it's finally happening. Yes, Earth's hidden children will finally come home. Begin the awakening sequence. I will contact Admiral Yuna directly. Yes, sir. Shadow Command out. Do-hyun hung up the phone. He stood alone in the dark room for a moment. His heart was beating fast now. Not from fear, but from excitement. For his entire life, he had kept this secret. He had trained for this day. He had watched the sky every night, knowing that someday someone would come to threaten Earth. The Vecran thought they were attacking a weak planet, a young species that had just learned to leave its own world. They looked at human technology and laughed. They saw primitive rockets and simple weapons. They did not know the truth. They did not know that thousands of years ago, humans had found something buried deep beneath the ice of Antarctica. Ancient ships, advanced technology, a message from ancestors who had traveled the stars long before recorded history. The first humans to find these secrets had made a choice. They hid everything. They built their civilization slowly, carefully, while secretly studying the ancient technology. They created hidden bases around the world. They built new ships based on the old designs. They trained special forces in secret. Generation after generation kept the secret. Presidents knew. Kings knew. Generals knew. But the common people never learned. The world thought it was alone. The world thought it was weak. The world was wrong. Do-hyun walked back to the command center. General Park was waiting for him. Well? The general asked that. Do-hyun smiled. Tell the world leaders not to surrender. Tell them that Earth has a surprise for our visitors. Outside, the alien ships waited in the dark sky. Their weapons were ready. Their soldiers were eager to conquer another world. They had no idea what was about to happen. In Antarctica, deep beneath the ice, lights began to turn on. Engines that had been silent for centuries started to hum. Metal doors that had been closed for generations began to open. Earth's hidden fleet was waking up. And soon, the Shadow Gate would finally open. Admiral Yuna stood at the edge of the ice cliff and looked down at the entrance to Antarctica Base 7. From above, it looked like nothing special. Just another research station in the frozen wasteland. White buildings covered in snow. A few vehicles parked outside. Scientists walking slowly in heavy coats. But beneath the ice, 3 kilometers below the surface, lay the biggest secret in human history. Yuna was 55 years old. She had spent 30 years serving in the Shadow Fleet. She had trained on ships that the world did not know existed. She had studied technology that would make the greatest scientists cry with joy. And she had waited. Every day, she had waited for this moment. Her phone rang. She answered it immediately. Admiral Yuna, Commander Do-hyun's voice said. Did you receive the code? Shadow Rise. Yes, I received it. I've already started the descent. Good. The Vecran have given us 1 hour. How fast can you wake the fleet? Yuna looked at her watch. The awakening sequence takes 40 minutes. The ships will be ready with time to spare. Excellent. I will coordinate with the surface forces. We need to keep the Vecran distracted while you prepare. Understood. Doyen. After all these years, are we really doing this? Yes, old friend. The day has finally come. Make our ancestors proud. Yuna ended the call. She walked toward a small metal building that looked like a storage shed. 2 guards stood outside. They wore white uniforms that blended with the snow. Their faces showed no emotion, but their eyes were sharp and alert. Admiral, they said together, saluting. Open the descent elevator. Authorization. Silent Moon 3-4. The guards entered a code into a hidden panel. The ground beneath Yuna's feet began to move. A platform lowered her down into the ice. The cold air rushed past her face as she descended deeper and deeper into the earth. The elevator ride took 10 minutes. The walls changed from ice to rock to smooth metal. Lights appeared along the walls, glowing with soft blue energy. This was not human technology from the modern age. This was something far older, far more powerful. The platform stopped. Yuna stepped off into a massive underground hall. The ceiling was so high she could barely see it. The floor stretched for kilometers in every direction. And filling this space were ships. Thousands and thousands of ships. They were beautiful. Their hulls were made of dark gray metal that seemed to absorb light. Their shapes were smooth and elegant, like birds frozen in flight. Each ship was marked with ancient symbols that no modern language could translate. These were the legacy of humanity's first ancestors, the ones who had traveled to stars before returning to Earth to start again. Captain Minho was waiting for her. He was a young man, only 30 years old, but he was one of the best pilots in the Shadow Fleet. His dark hair was cut short, and his uniform was perfectly clean. Admiral, the crews are assembling. All ships are reporting green status. We can begin the awakening sequence on your command. Yuna nodded. Begin immediately. We have less than an hour. Minho spoke into his communicator. All stations, this is Captain Minho. Begin awakening sequence. Repeat. Begin awakening sequence. This is not a drill. Throughout the underground base, crews ran to their ships. Engineers checked systems that had been sleeping for decades. Pilots strapped themselves into seats made of materials stronger than any steel. Weapons officers powered up guns that could crack a planet in half. Yuna walked toward her own ship, the Eternal Dawn. It was the flagship of the Antarctic Fleet. Larger than any other vessel, it carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. She had spent years learning every part of this ship. It was her home, her weapon, her responsibility. She climbed aboard and entered the bridge. Her crew was already at their stations. They looked at her with eyes full of determination and excitement. Admiral on the bridge, Lieutenant Soman announced. She was the communications officer, a small woman with quick hands and a sharp mind. At ease, Yuna said. She sat in the command chair. The seat molded itself to her body, connecting her to the ship's systems. She could feel the engines warming up. She could sense the weapons coming online. The Eternal Dawn was waking up. Status report, she ordered. All systems online, Soman said. The awakening sequence is at 40%. 1,200 ships are already active. The rest will be ready in 20 minutes. What about the other bases? Pacific Base 3 reports full readiness. Atlantic Base 1 is at 80%. Arctic Base 2 is launching now. Yuna smiled. The Shadow Fleet was not just in Antarctica. It was hidden all over the world. Under mountains, beneath oceans, inside volcanoes. For thousands of years, humanity had been building this secret army. Now, finally, it would see the light. "Open a channel to all ships," Una commanded. Someone's fingers danced over her controls. "Channel open, Admiral." Una stood up. She looked at the main screen, which showed the faces of thousands of captains waiting for her words. "Brothers and sisters of the Shadow Fleet, for generations we have kept the secret. We have trained in darkness. We have watched the sky and waited. Today, that waiting ends. Alien invaders have come to our home. They think we are weak. They think we are primitive. They think Earth is easy to conquer." She paused. Her voice grew stronger. "They are wrong. We are the descendants of star travelers. We carry the blood of ancient warriors. We have technology that these invaders cannot imagine. Today, we show the universe what humanity truly is. Today, we defend our home. Today, we rise." Cheers erupted from every ship. The sound filled the communication channels. Men and women who had lived their entire lives in secret were finally free to show their strength. "All ships, prepare for surface launch," Una ordered. "We break through the ice in 15 minutes. On the surface, the world was still in panic. The Vecran deadline was approaching. News reports showed crowds crying in the streets. Leaders argued in emergency meetings. Some countries had already started to prepare surrender documents. No one noticed the small earthquakes that began in Antarctica. No one saw the cracks forming in the ice. No one heard the thunder from deep below the ground. Una watched the countdown on her screen. 10 minutes, 9, 8. "Admiral," someone said. "We're receiving a message from Commander Doyen." "Put him through." Doyen's face appeared on the screen. He was still in the bunker, but his eyes were bright with hope. "Admiral, the Vecran are getting impatient. They've started moving their ships into attack formation. They're targeting major cities. How much time do we have?" 20 minutes at most. They're going to fire whether we surrender or not. They want to make an example." Una gripped the arms of her chair. "We'll be ready. Tell the surface forces to hold their positions. When we emerge, we need them to coordinate with our attack." "Understood." "Good luck, Admiral. Luck has nothing to do with it. This is destiny." The countdown reached 0. The Eternal Dawn's engines roared to life. The ship rose from its ancient resting place. Around it, hundreds of other ships followed. They shot upward through tunnels carved in the ice. They broke through the surface like arrows fired from the Earth itself, the Antarctic sky filled with ships. Dark, brave vessels covered with ancient symbols flew toward the clouds. The research scientists on the surface fell to their knees, unable to believe what they were seeing. All around the world, the same thing happened. Ships burst from mountains in the Himalayas. They rose from the depths of the Pacific Ocean. They exploded from hidden bases in deserts and forests and frozen tundras. Earth's hidden fleet had finally surfaced. Una looked at the blue sky above her ship. Soon, they would reach space. Soon, they would face the Vecran Empire. Soon, the universe would learn that humanity was not a young species to be conquered. "Set course for low Earth orbit," she commanded. "It's time to introduce ourselves to our visitors." The Eternal Dawn accelerated upward. Behind it, thousands of ships followed. The greatest secret in human history was no longer a secret, and somewhere beneath the Pacific Ocean, an ancient machine began to activate. The Shadow Gate was preparing to open. The real battle was about to begin. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, where sunlight never reached and pressure could crush steel like paper, Engineer Taiho worked in silence. His small submarine moved slowly through the dark water. The only light came from his vessel's headlights. which cut through the blackness like small stars. Taeho was 38 years old. He had no family, no friends outside of work. His entire life had been dedicated to one purpose: maintaining the Shadow Gate. He had trained for 20 years. He had studied ancient texts that described technology beyond modern understanding. He had spent countless hours in this cold, dark place, making sure that everything was ready. Today, all that work would finally matter. His communicator crackled. "Taeho, this is Admiral Yuna. What is your status?" "I'm approaching the gate now, Admiral. I should reach the activation chamber in 5 minutes." "Excellent. The surface fleet has launched. We're engaging the Vecran in 10 minutes. We need the gate open before then." "I understand. I won't fail you. I know you won't. You've trained your whole life for this moment." Taeho ended the communication and focused on his controls. The submarine dove deeper into the trench. The water pressure made his vessel groan, but he was not afraid. He had made this journey hundreds of times. He knew every rock, every current, every shadow in this underwater canyon. Then he saw it, the Shadow Gate. Even after seeing it so many times, it still took his breath away. The gate was enormous. It stood on the ocean floor like a doorway built by gods. 2 massive pillars rose from the seabed, each one taller than the tallest building on Earth. They were made of a metal that did not exist anywhere else in the known universe. Between the pillars was nothing but empty space. But Taeho knew that emptiness was an illusion. When activated, the gate would open a portal to another dimension, a place where humanity's greatest fleet waited in eternal darkness. He guided his submarine toward a small platform at the base of the gate. This was the control center. From here, he could activate the ancient machine and change the fate of Earth forever. Taeho docked his submarine and stepped out into the underwater station. The pressure here was controlled by technology he did not fully understand. He could breathe normal air. He could walk without being crushed. The ancient builders had thought of everything. The control room was simple. A single chair faced a panel covered with symbols and lights. Taeho had memorized every symbol. He knew exactly what each one did. He sat down and placed his hands on the panel. "Beginning activation sequence," he said aloud, even though no one could hear him. The first symbol he touched caused the pillars to glow. Blue light spread from the bottom to the top, making the dark water bright as day. Fish that had never seen light fled in terror. The ocean floor trembled. The second symbol activated the power core. Somewhere inside the gate, energy that had been stored for thousands of years began to flow. The humming sound grew louder. Taeho could feel it in his bones. The third symbol was the most important. This was the key that would open the portal. Taeho hesitated for just a moment. Once he pressed this symbol, there was no going back. The gate would open, and whatever was on the other side would come through. He thought about his training. He thought about the stories he had been told. On the other side of this gate was a pocket dimension, created by humanity's ancestors long ago. They had hidden their greatest ships there, waiting for a day when Earth would need them. Waiting for a day like today. Taeho pressed the third symbol. The effect was instant. The empty space between the pillars began to change. It swirled like water going down a drain. Colors that had no name danced in the darkness. The humming became a roar. The ocean itself seemed to scream. Then the portal opened. It was like looking into a hole in reality. On the other side, Taeho could see stars. But they were not the stars of Earth's sky. They were different, older, more beautiful. And among those stars, he saw ships. More ships than he could count. They stretched across the entire view, waiting, watching, ready. "The gate is open," Taeho reported into his communicator. "The Shadow Fleet is visible. They're magnificent." In orbit above Earth, Admiral Yuna received the message. She smiled and turned to her crew. "The gate is open. Signal the shadow dimension. Tell them to begin the crossing." Lieutenant Soman sent the signal. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, from the portal beneath the Pacific Ocean, light began to rise. Ships emerged from the water like ancient sea monsters awakening from sleep. But they did not stop at the surface. They continued upward, flying toward space, joining the fleet that had already gathered. One ship after another came through the gate. Large ships, small ships, battle cruisers and fighters and carriers so massive they blocked out the sun. Each one was built with technology far beyond anything the Vakran had ever seen. Captain Hana stood on the bridge of her ship, the night storm, watching the portal grow smaller beneath her. She had been born in the shadow dimension. She had never seen the real Earth before. All her life, she had trained for this day. The day she would finally come home. "Beautiful," she whispered, looking at the blue planet below. "So this is what we've been protecting all these years." Her crew worked around her, preparing weapons and shields. They were ready for battle. They had been ready for generations. "Captain," her tactical officer reported, "we're detecting the Vecran fleet. 2,000 warships in high orbit. They've noticed our arrival." Hannah smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Good. Let them look. Let them see what's coming for them." The Vakran commander, High Commander Brock, stared at his screens in disbelief. His 4 yellow eyes blinked rapidly. His blue skin turned pale. What is this?" he demanded. "Where did these ships come from?" His officers had no answers. They had scanned Earth carefully before arriving. They had seen only primitive rockets and weak satellites. They had found no sign of any advanced fleet. It was impossible. It was unthinkable, but the evidence was right in front of them. Thousands of Earth ships were rising from the planet. More were emerging from some kind of portal in the ocean. And all of them were heading straight for the Vecran fleet. "This cannot be," Brock growled. "These humans are insects. They should have no technology like this." "Sir," one of his officers said nervously, "those ships, our sensors cannot fully analyze them. They're using materials and energy sources we don't recognize." "Impossible." "Sir, what are your orders? Should we retreat?" Brock slammed his fist against his chair. Retreat? The Vakran Empire never retreated. They had conquered 100 worlds. They had destroyed countless species. They would not run from a primitive race like humans. "All ships, attack formation," he commanded. "Destroy them. Destroy them all." The Vecran fleet moved forward, their weapons charged, their shields activated. They were confident in their power. They had never lost a battle. They did not know that they were about to face something far worse than anything they had encountered before. Admiral Yuna watched the enemy fleet approaching. She was calm. She was ready. "All ships, this is Admiral Yuna. The enemy is coming. Remember your training. Remember what we fight for. Remember that today, we show the universe what humanity truly is." She raised her hand. "All ships, attack." The first battle for Earth had begun. The shadow gate stood open beneath the waves, and from its depths more ships continued to emerge. The Vakran had come to conquer. They had found warriors instead. Space above Earth exploded into fire and light. The Vakran fleet opened fire first. Their energy beams cut through the darkness like red rivers of death. They expected to burn through the human ships like paper. They expected quick victory. They were wrong. Captain Hannah gripped the arms of her chair as the night storm dove into battle. Enemy fire streaked past her ship, missing by meters. Her pilot, a young man named Junho, moved the vessel with incredible skill. He had trained for this his entire life. Every turn, Every dodge, every movement was perfect. Shields holding, her tactical officer reported. Enemy weapons are ineffective against our hull. Hannah smiled. Of course they are. Our ships were built to fight wars across galaxies. These Vecran toys can't scratch our paint. She leaned forward. All weapons, open fire. The Night Storm's guns lit up the darkness. Blue energy beams shot toward the nearest Vecran ship. Unlike the enemy weapons, these beams did not miss. They did not bounce off shields. They cut through Vecran armor like knives through soft bread. The enemy ship exploded. Then another. Then another dot all across the battlefield. The same scene repeated. Human ships from the Shadow Fleet tore through Vecran defenses. The ancient technology was simply better, faster, stronger. The Vecran had conquered many worlds, but they had never faced anything like this. High Commander Brock watched his fleet dying. His screens showed explosion after explosion. Red symbols appeared as ship after ship was destroyed. In just 5 minutes, he had lost 100 vessels. This is impossible, he whispered. How are they doing this? Sir, their weapons are too powerful. Our shields cannot block them. Our armor cannot stop them. We need to retreat. No, Brock roared. We are the Vecran Empire. We do not run. Send in the reserves. All ships, concentrate fire on their largest vessel. 200 Vecran ships turned toward the Eternal Dawn. They fired everything they had. The space around Admiral Yuna's flagship turned red with enemy beams. Yuna did not flinch. She watched the attack calmly. Damage report. Minor heating on the outer hull. No structural damage. Shields are holding at 98%. Return fire. Show them what the Eternal Dawn can do. The flagship's main cannon charged. It was a weapon that could destroy a small moon. Energy gathered at the front of the ship, growing brighter and brighter until it was hard to look at. Then it fired. A single beam of white light shot forward. It hit the center of the Vecran formation. Ships did not explode one at a time. They exploded together. 50 vessels vanished in a flash of light. The beam continued through them, hitting more ships behind. When it finally faded, over 100 Vecran ships were gone. Silence fell over the Vecran communication channels. Their warriors could not believe what they had seen. Their commanders could not find words. Their emperor, watching from far away through long-range sensors, began to feel something he had never felt before. Fear. Down on Earth. Commander Dolyun watched the battle on his screens. The bunker around him was silent. Every soldier, every officer, every person in the room stared at the images with open mouths. We're winning, Jiwoo said softly. We're actually winning. Dolyun nodded. I told you help was coming. General Park stood beside him, tears running down his old face. I never believed it. All those years, I heard the stories about the hidden fleet, but I never truly believed. I thought it was just a legend to give us hope. It was always real, General. Our ancestors made sure we would be ready. They knew this day would come. On the night storm, Captain Hana pushed deeper into enemy lines. Her ship danced between explosions and debris. She had destroyed 12 Vecran vessels already, and she was hungry for more. Captain, Junho called out. I'm detecting a massive energy signature. The Vecran flagship is charging some kind of weapon. Hannah looked at her tactical display. High Commander Brock's ship was the largest in the enemy fleet. It was pulling back from the battle, and energy was building in its core. Whatever weapon it was charging, it was powerful. They're going to fire at Earth, she realized. They know they can't beat us, so they're going to destroy our planet out of spite. Can we stop them? Hana calculated the distance. Her ship could reach the flagship, but not before the weapon fired. She needed help. Admiral Yuna, she called through her communicator. The enemy flagship is charging a planet-killer weapon. I need support to take it down. I see it, Una responded. All nearby ships converge on the enemy flagship. We cannot let them fire that weapon. 30 human ships turned toward Brock's vessel. They flew at maximum speed, their engines burning hot. But the Vecran flagship was surrounded by guards. Hundreds of smaller ships moved to block the human attack. The battle grew more intense. Ships exploded on both sides. Human pilots pushed their vessels to the limit, trying to break through the enemy defenses. Time was running out. On Brock's ship, the weapon countdown reached its final moments. Target the planet's largest population center, Brock ordered. His voice was filled with hatred. If we cannot conquer this world, we will burn it to ash. Weapon charged, High Commander. Ready to fire. Fire. The Vecran flagship released its energy. A massive beam of destruction shot toward Earth. It would hit in seconds. Millions would die. Cities would burn. The world would never recover. But Captain Hannah was not going to let that happen. Junho, full speed. Ram that beam. Captain, that will destroy our ship. I know, do it. Junho did not hesitate. He trusted his captain completely. The night storm accelerated to impossible speed. It shot forward like an arrow made of starlight. Other crew members grabbed their stations. They knew what was coming. They did not complain. They did not beg. They were ready to die for their home. The night storm hit the Vecran beam at full speed. The ancient ship's shields absorbed the energy. The hull cracked. The engine screamed. But the beam was stopped. The deadly light that would have killed millions faded away into space. The night storm survived, barely. It drifted through space, broken but alive. Hannah pulled herself up from the floor. Blood ran down her face from a cut on her forehead. Her bridge was dark. Emergency lights flickered weakly. Damage report, she whispered. We're alive, Junho said. He sounded surprised. Shields are gone. Hull is at 30%. Weapons are offline. But we're alive. And Earth. Junho checked his sensors. A smile spread across his face. Safe. The beam never reached them. Hannah closed her eyes. She had been willing to die. She had accepted her death as the price for protecting her home. But somehow, she was still here. Admiral Una, she said weakly into her communicator. Planet killer weapon neutralized. The night storm needs rescue. Rescue ships are on the way, Una responded. Her voice was filled with pride. Captain Hannah, what you did was incredibly brave. You saved millions of lives. Earth will never forget your sacrifice. I didn't sacrifice anything. I'm still here. Yes, you are. And the battle isn't over. The enemy flagship is still alive. I'm sending ships to finish what you started. Across the battlefield, the human fleet pressed their advantage. The Vecran were breaking. Their formations crumbled. Their ships fled in disorder. What had started as a conquest was turning into a disaster. High Commander Brock stared at his screens. More than half his fleet was gone. His planet-killer weapon had been stopped by a single human ship. His invasion was failing. For the first time in his long military career, Brock gave an order he had never given before. All ships, retreat. Fall back to the jump point. We must warn the Empire. The Vecran fled. They ran from the humans they had called primitive. They ran from the ships they thought were impossible. They ran from Earth, knowing that they would have to return with a much larger force if they ever wanted to conquer this world. Admiral Una watched them go. She did not pursue. There would be time for that later. For now, victory was enough. All ships, stand down. The enemy is retreating. We have won. Earth had survived its first battle. The Shadow Fleet had proven itself. But this was only the beginning. The veteran would return. And next time, they would bring the full power of their empire. Humanity needed to be ready. 3 days had passed since the battle. The Vakran fleet was gone, scattered across the stars in defeat. Their broken ships drifted through space as evidence of what had happened. Earth was safe, but the world would never be the same. Admiral Una stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, looking down at the blue planet below. The ship was in high orbit now, watching over Earth like a guardian angel. Around her, the Shadow Fleet held position. Thousands of ancient warships that had once been hidden were now visible to everyone. The people of Earth had seen them. Television cameras had captured the battle. Reporters had broadcast every moment. The secret that had been kept for thousands of years was finally revealed. "Admiral," Lieutenant Selman said softly, "Commander Dong is calling from the surface. He says the world leaders want to speak with you." Una nodded. "Put him through." Dohan's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired but happy. The weight of carrying the secret for so many years had finally been lifted from his shoulders. "Admiral, the United Nations has called an emergency meeting. Every country wants answers. They want to know about the hidden fleet, the Shadow Gate, everything. They've asked you to address them personally. I expected as much. The truth cannot stay hidden any longer. Our people deserve to know their true history. The world is in shock, Una. Many people are scared. They don't understand what happened. Some think we've been conquered by aliens from our own planet. Others think the government has been lying to them forever. They weren't lies. They were protection. Our ancestors knew that this knowledge was dangerous. If the wrong people had learned about the ancient technology, wars would have destroyed humanity long ago. The secret was kept to keep us safe. I know. But now we have to explain it to 7 billion people who just watched impossible ships appear from nowhere." Una smiled. "Then let's explain. I'll address the United Nations tonight. It's time for humanity to learn who we really are." That evening, Admiral Una stood before the leaders of every nation on Earth. The great assembly hall was silent. Presidents, kings, and prime ministers watched her with wide eyes. Behind her, a massive screen showed images of the Shadow Fleet floating in space. "Ladies and gentlemen," Una began. 3 days ago, alien invaders came to our world. They expected to find easy prey. They found warriors instead. I am here to tell you the truth about who we are and where we came from." She paused, letting her words settle over the crowd. Thousands of years ago, humanity was not alone on this planet. Our ancestors came from the stars. They were travelers, explorers who sailed across galaxies in ships beyond imagination. They found Earth and made it their home. But they knew that someday, enemies would come. So they prepared. They built hidden bases around the world. They created the Shadow Gate, a portal to a pocket dimension where they stored their greatest weapons. They trained special forces in secret, generation after generation, waiting for the day when Earth would need defending. That day came 3 days ago. The Vecran Empire tried to conquer us. They failed. They underestimated humanity. They thought we were young and weak. They were wrong. The screen behind her changed. It showed images of Captain Hana's ship blocking the planet killer beam. It showed the Eternal Dawn destroying 100 enemy vessels with a single shot. It showed the Shadow Gate opening beneath the Pacific Ocean. We are not a young species stumbling into the stars. We are the children of travelers who cross the universe. We carry their blood. We inherit their legacy. And now we carry their mission. She stepped forward, her voice growing stronger. The Vecran will return. They will bring more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. They will try again to conquer Earth, but we will be ready. We will always be ready, because this is our home, and we will never let it fall. The assembly hall exploded with noise. Some leaders cheered. Others wept. Many simply sat in stunned silence, trying to understand what they had just learned. In the days that followed, the world changed rapidly. The Shadow Fleet shared some of its technology with Earth's nations. Medical science advanced by centuries in weeks. Energy problems disappeared as ancient power sources were revealed. The hunger and disease that had plagued humanity for so long began to fade. But not all changes were peaceful. Some people rejected the truth. They claimed the Shadow Fleet was a threat. They demanded that the ancient ships be destroyed. They feared what humanity might become. Commander Do-yoon dealt with these problems patiently. He gave interviews. He answered questions. He explained again and again that the Shadow Fleet existed only to protect Earth, not to rule it. "We are not your masters," he told a crowd of protesters outside the bunker. "We are your guardians. We have always been your guardians. Every person in the Shadow Fleet is human, just like you. We eat the same food. We speak the same languages. We love the same planet. The only difference is that we knew the truth earlier than you did." Engineer Taiho remained at the Shadow Gate, monitoring its systems. More ships came through every day, joining the fleet in orbit. He had spent his life alone in the darkness, but now he had visitors. Scientists came to study the gate. Reporters came to take pictures. Children sent him letters, calling him a hero. He did not feel like a hero. He had only done his job. But he smiled when he read those letters. The world finally knew what he had protected for so long. That was reward enough. Captain Hana recovered from her injuries on board a medical ship. Her crew visited her every day, bringing flowers and good wishes. When she was finally strong enough to walk again, she went to the observation deck and looked down at Earth. "It's beautiful," Junho said, standing beside her. "I never thought I would actually see it." "Neither did I," Hana replied. "I was born in the shadow dimension. I grew up among stars that don't exist in normal space. Earth was always a story to me, a legend. Now it's real. What will you do now?" "The battle is over." Hana shook her head. "The battle is over. The war is just beginning. The Vecren will come back. And there are other empires out there. Other threats. Earth is visible now. Everyone in the galaxy knows we exist. We need to be ready. Then we train more pilots. Build more ships. Get stronger. Yes, and we do something else. We explore. Our ancestors traveled the stars. They discovered wonders beyond imagination. We've been hiding on Earth for too long. It's time to see what's out there." Junho smiled. "I like the sound of that." 1 month after the battle, Admiral Yuna held a ceremony in orbit around Earth. Every ship in the Shadow Fleet was present. Every crew member watched on screens or through windows. "Today," Yuna announced, "we begin a new chapter in human history. We are no longer hiding. We are no longer waiting. We are stepping into the stars, not as refugees, but as a people returning home." She gestured toward the darkness beyond Earth. "Out there are wonders we cannot imagine. Civilizations we have not met. Dangers we must face. But we will face them together, as one species, one family, one force that the universe will learn to respect. The Shadow Gate is open. The hidden fleet has surfaced. And humanity's dawn has finally arrived." The crews cheered. Ships sounded their horns. Lights flashed across the fleet in celebration. Down on Earth, people looked up at the sky. They could see the ships now, tiny lights moving among the stars. For the first time in their lives, they knew they were not alone. They knew that humanity was part of something bigger, something older, something magnificent. The Vecren Empire watched from far away. They were planning their revenge. They would gather a fleet 10 times larger. They would bring weapons that could crack planets in half. They would return to Earth and try again. But when they came back, they would find humanity waiting for them, stronger, smarter, ready. The Shadow Gate remained open beneath the Pacific Ocean. Its blue light glowed in the darkness, a door to infinite possibilities. Engineer Taiho watched it every day, smiling at what it represented. A new future, a new beginning, a new dawn for all of humanity. And somewhere in the stars, the ancestors who had first come to Earth watched their children with pride. The secret they had kept for so long had finally served its purpose. Their legacy lived on. Their mission continued. Earth was no longer hidden. Earth was ready.